Senator Warren is a champion in the fight for middle-class families. She is relentless in her work to ensure that we all have a fair shot to get ahead. Together with her, we have persisted, we have resisted, and we have rallied for changes that make life better for not only everyone in Massachusetts, but for everyone throughout the nation. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to Senator Elizabeth Warren.
So here it is. You all can hear me, right? Good. You always tell school teachers, you want to make sure you can be heard and that everybody can see, right? Because I want to see all the people in the back row. I know why you're back there. I will be paying attention. So here it is. It is this beautiful, crisp Sunday morning out there. It's sunny. It's gorgeous. There are a million things you could be doing. And here you are in a school auditorium to talk about our democracy and policies. God, I love being from Massachusetts. Yes, thank you. Well, you are here at a moment when it really matters. So I've been trying to think about over the last year, oh God, has it only been a year? They really are. They're like dog years, right? All the things that have gone on. But I try to think about it, and I think about, for a long time, I try to calm myself by saying, but there have been other times in American history where things swung out of control. And over time, we get them pulled back to a better place. Not always perfectly. Sometimes it took a long time. But we do that. But this is what's got me worried right now. Is that this administration, this Republican Party, has been in an all-out attack on the very foundations of democracy. The things that we count on to help us eventually get to the right place. Look what's happened around voting. We now live in an America where one political party thinks that it is okay to describe its strategy is to keep people away from the polls, people who might be voting for the other candidate or the other party. That we live in a democracy where all of our intelligence agencies have told us that the Russians interfered directly in our electoral process with the intent of influencing the outcome. And that one political party says, well, I don't think that happened, and don't want to do anything about it to help harden and protect our electoral system. That we'll take a little booing this morning. That we live in a democracy where gerrymandering, right, and voter suppression and voter ID laws are simply a part now of the political process. And the reason this worries me so much is that thing we count on, getting access to the polls and voting so that our government represents the people, is under direct attack. Second way that the democratic foundations are under direct attack has been, we have always counted on an independent judiciary. And this one you cannot lay solely at Trump's feet. This has been a 30-year effort by the Republicans who have put in one pro-corporate federal judge after another, not just in the district courts, not just in the courts of appeals, but right in the United States Supreme Court. And year after year after year, we watch that tilt in the system. So that our second big safeguard, a set of judges that you could always count on to be there to say, neutrally, this is what the Constitution requires, these are what your own internal rules require. They're chipping away at that foundation. And the third one, a free and independent press. We always counted on the press, frankly, to hold our feet to the fire, to hold our representatives' feet to the fire, to hold everyone to basic standards of truth. And now we live in a world where there is an alt-right media that generates fake stories that then get picked up by bots and accelerated, then picked up by Fox News, who then go on an attack after mainstream media for not having covered this so-called news that they have discovered. And the consequence of that, I urge you to look at some of the studies. The Berkman Center at Harvard has a new study out by Yochai Binkler, and what it talks about is they just track what happened during the 2016 election, the news coverage, and how it kept getting pulled further and further and further to the right by this internal twist from the alt-right media. Now, I mention these because you chip away at the foundations. It's not just one policy we lose. It's not just the economy that we lose for a generation. It's not just that opportunity is stamped out for young people for a while. It's that the country fundamentally changes, and that the country that we believe in becomes a different country. And so this is the urgency of the moment. The attacks that are coming against an independent judiciary, the attacks that are coming on the side of the press, the attacks against voting are all pressing toward a government that does not represent the people. But here is the reason that on this Sunday morning, I am still an optimist. I'm not only an optimist, I'm a downright dancing optimist. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. It's because of you. It's because of Indivisible. It's because of how democracy is rewiring itself in America. We are changing this country. That's it. It truly is exactly what you are doing. At the very same moment that there are people in the Trump administration, that there are people right now in Republican leadership in Washington who are going hammer at tongs at the democratic foundations of this country, at that very same moment, democracy itself is changing and rewiring. And let me tell you just one story around this, a story in which I suspect every single person in this room participated. And that is, so just about a year ago today, a couple of days after the election, it was like, I don't know about you, but it was like pieces just kept falling into my brain about what this meant. It didn't hit me all at once. And I woke up a couple of days after the election and I thought, tens of millions of Americans are going to lose health care coverage. How do I know that? I know that because we don't have the votes to stop them in the House. We don't have the votes to stop them in the Senate. They can do this. And the House had already voted at that point 64 times to repeal Obamacare. I mean, like, we didn't get the message after the first 20. Had voted 64 times. The Senate had already voted. The Republican majority in the Senate had already voted to repeal Obamacare. And President Obama had to veto that. And Donald Trump had said at least a gazillion times out on the campaign trail on day one that he would get rid of Obamacare, right? And I want you to think about that. If they had actually done that, sworn in on a Monday, on a Friday, on the following Monday, if they'd rolled that through, think where we would be today. We would have our little begging bowls out, saying, please, could we have just a little health care for the children? Could we have just a little bit of health care for seniors in nursing homes? Maybe just a little something to provide some help. But it didn't happen. And I want you to think about why not. So in that period, in November and December, something I started talking about, we started getting a lot of people talking about, is repeal and run is for cowards. I always thought that was the most aggressive way to say it, right? You can't repeal and run. You have to repeal and replace. And even Donald Trump picked up that language before he was sworn in. Remember? Oh, and it'll be bigger and it will cover more people. Everyone will have coverage. It will be cheaper. It will be taller. It will have gold around the edges. We'll put a T on it, right? But that is what he said, basically. He got out there and said, I'm going to do this, right? And what the consequence was it slowed it all down. And once it slowed it all down, the Republicans had to start talking about the content, about their vision of health care in America. And then a couple of genuinely amazing things happened. In this country, we had a 5-week conversation over pre-existing conditions. When have we had a 5-minute conversation over pre-existing? But we did. Think about it, right? All the people who posted and wrote, and it was in headlines, and it was the top of the news stories, and people talked about it enough that it caused millions of Americans to say, whoa, wait a minute, wait. The current law's protecting me, and those guys want to say that insurance companies should be able to discriminate against me, against my wife, against my husband, against my children. Hold on just a minute here. And that began to change things. We had a second conversation in America, one we have not had for 52 years. And that is the conversation about putting a face on Medicaid. Medicaid had become them. Just them. Not you, them. Didn't help your family, didn't help anybody you knew. It was them. That's who Medicaid was about. 52 years ago, we passed Medicaid and had never made the case for it across this country. Once the Republicans said, we're going to take a big hunk out of Medicaid, all of a sudden, we started talking about, wait, that's 2 out of every 3 people in a nursing home who today rely on Medicaid to be able to be in that nursing home and get the services they need. That's your Nana. That's your grandpa. What's going to happen to those people? It's also that baby, your niece's baby, who was born 7 weeks prematurely and ran up $1 million in health care costs in the first month that she was in the hospital. That's what Medicaid comes in, even for families with insurance. Medicaid comes in and helps out. And when that baby comes home and needs special breathing tubes and needs therapists, it's Medicaid that comes in and helps. Medicaid is about your neighbor who uses a wheelchair and may need somebody to drop in 1 hour a day, 2 hours a day, to be able to help with personal care so they can live in their home instead of having to live in an institution. That's what Medicaid is about. And that's when the conversation in America really began to change. Medicaid is about us. That we have said, we don't know who has the next baby that's born prematurely. If it's your family or my family, we don't know whose grandma is going to live longer than her savings. But what we're pretty darn sure is that all of us are going to pitch in a little so that whatever family it hits, it's part of the great American family, and we're going to help out. And that is who we are. Now, here's the thing. How did that conversation change? It didn't change because of a few people at the top saying, well, we're going to change this conversation. It changed because of you. It changed. How many people in here did a post on any time during the medical care? How many people did a post on medical? Yeah, exactly, everybody, right? How many sent emails, right? Made phone calls, showed up for rallies, right? Held signs, okay? We've got a whole group here, right? Exactly, keep going, raise a foot, the whole business. But that's the whole point. It happened because you and millions of people like you all across this country said, wait a minute, I'm in this. I'm in this debate. I care what my country does here. This one matters to me. And I'm going to tell you why I care. I'm going to post my story about my Nana. I'm going to post my story about the baby. I'm going to post my story about why it matters that a home health aide stops by to see me. I'm going to post my story about pre-existing conditions. I'm going to get out there and be part of a great national conversation about why healthcare matters in America. And here's what fundamentally changed. What fundamentally changed in America is we can say something today that we could not say a year ago. Today in America, we can say and have a good, large majority with us. Healthcare is a basic human right, and we will fight for it. Yes. 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 So, I was there on the floor of the United States Senate when I knew. Watch what happened. I know we don't want to be overly political about this, but I want you to remember this. 48 of us, 46 Democrats, 2 independents, we locked arms from the beginning and said, you will not roll back health care. They weren't able to pick off a single one of us. We stood arm in arm. And in August, when we're standing, when we're in the United States Senate, everybody's down on the floor. We know the votes are coming up. We're down on the floor. I was standing at what I still think of as Ted Kennedy's desk. I think of it because he wrote his name in the drawer. Actually, so did John Kennedy, wrote his name in that drawer. I have a pretty cool desk. I wrote my name in the drawer. So I'm standing there at my desk, because I can't sit. I just can't. While we're watching the votes, we know we got 48, and we know we have to get to 51. 50 won't do it for us. We got to get to 51 because Pence is also there, the vice president, right? To break the tie, and we know what will happen. And so you're watching them call the roll, and first, Susan Collins votes no. 49. That's 49. And because you never know it until you watch them vote, right? Then Lisa Murkowski votes no. That's 50. And I'm frantically looking around. Where is John McCain? Because they've skipped over McCain. He didn't answer when at first. And he's not on the floor. And I'm thinking, where has he gone? He's out in the ante room with the vice president. And you're thinking, oh dear, what's going to happen here? And then when John McCain walks back into the room, and you've all seen the clip of John McCain reaching out and saying, no. Healthcare was saved for 25 million Americans. It was a moment when I realized both that every seat counts, one off, and we wouldn't be there. Millions of people would have lost their health care. But it was also a moment when I realized the democracy of years ago, the democracy even of 2016, had completely changed. Because we didn't have any more votes in August of 2017 than we knew we were going to have back the day after the election. And yet, we had gotten there. Okay, by the skin of our teeth. And okay, I get it. They're coming back and they're doing what they can to sabotage it, and they'll raise it again. But democracy had changed. The notion that the people of the United States of America would say, no more, no more. You are going to hear our voices. We are going to make our values the values of the United States Congress. And that's what made the difference. You did this, so thank you. Thank you. And that's why I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful because, you know, the thing about this kind of action, this kind of work, it's not like a battery that gets drained. You know, I watched right after the Women's March. Any of you go to the Women's March? Any of the Women's March? Yes! You know, when a lot of people said afterwards, oh yeah, they're all there now, but will they be there next week? And the answer was yes. How about next month? Yes. How about 6 months from now? Yes. And how about 9 months from now? Yes. And how about a year from now? Yes. And 10 years from now? We're going to do this. That's exactly right. Because it's like a muscle. That debate on health care, and that's what I want you to focus on, that debate on health care was about our getting stronger, our getting organized, our getting our groups together, our groups figuring out the best way to use our time and our energy and where to go and how to do it so that we could make big national change. It is truly an extraordinary moment in this country. Am I worried? You bet I'm worried. One side is still hacking away at the basics of democracy, the foundation of democracy. But at that very same moment, we're working as hard and fast as we can to build a democracy that works better for all of the people. And that's why we're here today. We're going to do this. So you're going to hear a lot about the tough fights that we've got ahead, and boy, we do have some tough fights ahead. The two right now in front of us on our plate is that we're running out of time for the dreamers. We have got to get a Clean Dream Act through. America made a promise, and we must follow through. And the second is the Republicans are trying to ram through a tax bill that would truly devastate working families in this country. It is an astonishing bill. $1.5 trillion in giveaways to giant corporations, subsidies for big corporations to invest in jobs overseas instead of right here in America. And what do they want to do for America's middle class? They want to say to school teachers who reach in their own pockets to buy crayons and colored paper because the school districts can't afford it, they want to say, you know, we used to give you a little tax break for doing that. No more. You've lost it. They want to say to families that adopt children, we used to give them a little tax break to help cover the costs of the adoption. No more. They want to say to employers who get a little tax break for hiring people with disabilities to make the accommodations so that we can have fuller workplaces. No more. You lose all of that in order to try to help fund huge tax giveaways to millionaires, to billionaires, to giant corporations. Well, I'm counting on democracy. I'm counting on you to fight back on that. You bet. That's what we're going to do. So, I'm excited you're here. I'm excited I get to come in early in the morning to get everybody ready. Yes, I am like this with no coffee. I really am. I don't drink coffee. I just keep following what's going on in the news, and I'm ready. Okay, Donald Trump's still president. I'm awake. Okay. But what I thought I'd do is take this last couple of minutes that we're together. There's something special about being together. We're making democracy work very much online, right? By connecting ourselves up. But there's a reason we also get together. We get together to remind ourselves of the things that are important to us, to remind ourselves of our values, to remind ourselves about the things we are going to fight for. And so let me just put some of these out there so we can all say, there are a lot of fights we have going forward, but they're our fights together. Whether what brought you here was a particular piece or a different particular piece, these are the fights we share. And so let me start by saying, no one in America should work full-time and live in poverty. And that means raising the minimum wage for all of us. that no young person who is trying to get an education should be crushed by student loan debt, and that means debt-free college. That in America, everyone should pay a fair share, and that means taxes for corporations and millionaires and billionaires. Oh, and while we're at it, how about if we remind ourselves that the rules apply to everyone, and that includes Wall Street, and when CEOs break the law, they should go to jail just like anyone else. You think so? Yeah, I think that's right. We believe that workers have a right to come together, to organize together, to bargain together, that unions built America's middle class, and unions will rebuild America's middle class. We believe that after a lifetime of hard work, people are entitled to retire with dignity, and that means protecting and expanding Social Security and Medicare. Yep. I'm going to give you another one, and this one is very controversial in some places, so be steady. I'm glad you're all sitting down. If you're not sitting down, you might want to just reach over and hold a chair there. We believe in science. Yeah! We believe that climate change is real and that we have a moral obligation to leave an earth where our children can drink the water and breathe the air. No kidding. No kidding. We believe that diversity, our differences, are in fact our strengths. And that's why we need comprehensive immigration reform. And we will fight for DACA. We also believe that hatred and bigotry have no place in our democracy. Black Lives Matter. We are here to build an America for all of us. And we do believe that health care is a basic human right. You think? I'll give you another one. I write them down so I don't forget, because I have so many that I always want to talk about. But one that someday we will cross off the list because we will have done it. I cannot believe I have to keep saying this in 2017. We believe in equal pay for equal work and a woman's right to decisions over her own body. Yes. And we believe that we owe a moral obligation to our children to keep them safe, and that sensible gun laws will help accomplish that, and that we will fight for them. Yep. Okay, you know I could do this all day. I actually could. I would stay here, we just wouldn't do any more panels. But there's one more that I have to do because it goes so much to the heart of what you're doing. We believe that corporations are not people, that we will overturn Citizens United and we will return democracy to the people. That's why we are here. So thank you, thank you. It is an honor to fight alongside you. We got to do this. Thank you, thank you. We're going to do this. Thank you, thank you, thank you.